Hi everyone, this is Jacob with MetaPure Products here to talk about corn. Have some important information that we feel everybody should know. The United States as a whole is one of the largest producers of corn, and we consume it in our diet all over the place. A lot of times in foods that we don't even think contain corn, contain it. So we wanted to discuss the way that corn is made today because it has a lot of impact in regards to our health. Now, to give a little bit of a backdrop, obviously when it comes to agriculture and any type of crop, they're always concerned with losing crop due to pests that spoil or damage crop. So this isn't any different with corn, and this has actually ended up producing a very large market, specifically in the biotechnology sector, in which they've been able to produce a solution to help corn not go to waste or go to spoil while it's being grown due to pests. And so the way they go about doing this is really all about the genes. As some of you may or may not have heard something called GMO. That stands for genetically modified organism. All right, what this means is that through the course of studies, the field of science has been able to find out that they can alter the genetic makeup of an organism. So that's all GMO really stands for, is the ability to modify a gene within a specimen. So some important things just to remember here is that the cell, inside of every cell there's a nucleus. Inside of that nucleus there are the genes that make up every single characteristic of anything. So if we're talking about corn, the genes dictate the flavor, the texture, the color of corn, etc. Now, the genes inside those cells can be modified, and a great example of this, for instance, are viruses. Okay, viruses, when they infect a body, they inject, they attach to the cell, and then they take over the cell by taking over the nucleus and altering the genetic makeup within the nucleus itself to then modify the cell so that the cell does what it wants it to do. And due to the understanding and knowledge that's taking place there, these biotech companies, as I mentioned, have found ways to modify corn seeds so that it acts as a pesticide. Now, let me help you understand the reason why this is important. All right, farmers spend a ton of money on pesticide, not just the purchasing of the pesticide itself, but also the application of it, because there's machines, there's workers, there's labor, and so all that equals just a bunch of money that they need to spend on that. Okay, not to mention the risk they take for crops going spoil in case they don't perhaps apply the pesticide as good as they ought to. So what these companies have been able to do is go into the cell of the seed of corn and modify the genes inside of it so that the corn seed itself is able to act as a pesticide. Okay, so very interesting. Now, why is this even important? Why are we talking about this at all? I mean, it sounds like it's a great thing for farmers, a great thing for production, which it is. I mean, it really, really has been able to yield more corn. Here's the problem, okay, is that whenever you genetically alter the cells within the seed, those cells, as they multiply, are going to go ahead and have that same pesticide characteristic in every other cell. So as the corn grows from a seed to growing to their stalk and then producing the kernel, the corn cobs with the kernels themselves, every single aspect of that corn, from the stalk to the kernel that we end up eating, has pesticide in it. That's very, very important to know because it's very, very dangerous. And so, in fact, there's been some studies and some notices, not notices, excuse me, but rather people have noted that there's been animal mortality because of that. So animals, obviously it's a little bit different because there's some animals such as cattle, for instance, or dairy cows that eat a ton of corn, right? So their entire diet is made up of corn essentially. And there's been animals that upon taking that, they die because of the fact that the corn has pesticide. They digest the corn, the pesticide then gets into their bloodstream, gets into the fibers of their body, and they just can't take it. Okay, it's toxic, obviously. Now, this has been so alarming that it's banned in a lot of countries. Unfortunately, in the U.S., this hasn't been the case. In fact, it's been quite the opposite. The amount of corn that is being produced by GMOs or genetic modified organisms continues to increase. Now, the long-term effects on terms of us and humans obviously it's undetermined, but the fact of the matter remains that while we don't eat as much corn as I mentioned as some of these animals, we're definitely digesting them in small amounts, and so the long-term effects of what happens over a period of time of exposing your body to this, it can't be good. I mean, any trace amounts of anything that's harmful is bad. And the thing about this is you're not eating trace amounts of pesticide. It's the pesticide itself that you're eating because because the cells are modified within the corn itself. Now, corn touches a lot of foods. So we're not just talking about, when you're eating corn on the cob on a summer day or opening up a can of corn. Everything from bread to cornflakes to a lot of cereals have corn in them. And you can probably starting to make the association right now because of the syrupy picture I have here. A lot of it comes down to high fructose corn syrup, which touches a litany of foods. And other than the sweetening characteristics, okay, that it has, which is why it's on sodas or cakes, snacks, is that it also acts as a sort of preservative. Specifically when it comes to boxed and packaged foods, you can see high fructose corn syrup a lot of times within those foods to help act as, preserving function. So boxed foods, packaged foods, a lot of pre-made foods or foods that need to be stored in the freezer have high fructose corn syrup. So some suggestions that we have is to eat organic corn simply because unless you eat organic, everything else is created by these seeds that have pesticide inside of them, and we've already gone over, really the unfortunate consequences that could take place if you eat that over a long period of time. And then also avoid foods with high fructose corn syrup. I won't get into it right now in terms of the sugar aspect of it, but you can go ahead and make sure you read the labels and look at the ingredients. Okay, and it's important to know too that they'll list the ingredients when it's listed on a food label. It's the largest amount of the ingredient will always be listed first, and the minimal amount of the ingredient will always be listed last. Now, I'll say this much: it's best not to have high fructose corn syrup at all, even if it's the very last ingredient on the food label, simply because it's just not healthy for you in so many ways. So we hope this was a benefit and you got a better understanding as to corn and some of the farming practices that are taking place now, and just be on the lookout and be aware. Make sure you pass this on to any friends or family. This is definitely some good information that everybody should be aware of. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at jacob@medapureproducts.com, and we hope you take care. Thank you.